Welcome back to Consciousness Science, all things mysterious and journeys into the great abyss. Today's story is my own personal account of the missing 411 disappearances. But before I get into today's stories, I would truly greatly appreciate the help of reaching 1,000 subscribers. I upload once a week, and I have plenty more of great videos coming up. So before I truly get into it, Missing 411 is a collection of documented cases of people have gone missing under the most bizarre circumstances. Now, I have delved deep into these cases and researched a lot of them, and there are a few correlations, but I'll get into that later. I would like to give you a couple examples of the cases that I have read. One being, there are reports of people going out hiking in the middle of the wilderness, with one partner, and they're just dead from miles of civilization. And they'd be right next to each other. One would gear off to the front, and the other one would fall back and maybe take a picture or a photo or something. And then the person up above would turn back, and the person back there would be totally vanished without a trace. Or a victim would just suddenly vanish that was hiking solo, and it'd be like a 2-day span, and the search party would be looking out for them for 2 days trying to find them, only to eventually search way out of their designated area to find them miles and miles and miles away from where they originally were last seen. Or the people that have unfortunately perished within the missing 411. Search parties would go out for weeks on end, find absolutely nothing in their search grid, and then local volunteers would continue the search, and then they would often find the victim back in an area where they already searched dozens and dozens of times. So I hope that gives you a little perspective of what this truly is and how deep it really goes and how mysterious it truly is. That being said, let's get into my story that I experienced this summer. One beautiful day in July this year, I decided to head out and just take an average bike ride on a regular trail I normally visit. Now, I wasn't planning on going out too far on this trail, and which I really didn't. So this particular trail, I was planning on just riding a couple minutes, like a half an hour about. As I reached the location of my car, the second I pulled up, I noticed little red berries that are actually edible. And I decided to, I've seen enough of them, so I'll pack a little Tupperware that I had in my car into my bag and maybe just scrounge up some and take home to make a jam or something. And that's exactly what I decided to do. So I packed up and I rode out, and I didn't get very far down this trail, about maybe a couple 100 feet. I got off my bike and I began picking. Beautiful, gorgeous day out, nice and sunny, lots of people on this trail. So I simply spent a good amount of time picking these berries, and as the day progressed, the sun kind of drifted off more and more towards dusk, which it wasn't truly dusk, but it was getting there. After a while of picking these berries, I kind of got the sense of being watched. And this is where things became kind of strange to me. I started getting thoughts of the red berries that would always consistently pop up in the stories. And that was the moment I decided I had enough. So I kind of just packed what I had and I threw it back in my bag and kind of just sat there for a minute contemplating if I wanted to head back or just kind of ride a little. But ultimately I decided to just ride back and get the day over with and go home. So as I got on the bike, the feeling of being watched intensified for some reason, for whatever the reason was. So I decided to just casually ride out back to where my car was and just go home. So as I'm casually riding back to my car, I suddenly get this overwhelming, powerful zap of fear that the forest is just messing with my head. And I didn't really understand it. At this point, I noticed there wasn't any more people on the trails, and this kind of freaked me out at this point. So this kind of shook me a little, so I started to speed up, and it kind of freaked me out. So I'm kind of riding a little bit faster. And as I'm doing this, I look down in front of me and see actually how far this trail goes. And it was a pretty good distance, which I didn't expect because I didn't think I went that far. So as I'm in the state of just kind of riding a little bit faster, I kept hearing the same car engine on the right side of me go over and over and over. And on the left of me, I kept hearing the same bird over and over and over on my left-hand side. So it freaked me out kind of more, so I started pedaling even more a little faster. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, I see where the trail ends up there, and it kind of gears off to the right, which I was kind of familiar with because I've been over there before. But I know I did not go that far down this trail. I was walking most of the time into there to pick the berries as I went along. So as I'm kind of pedaling even a little more faster, another shock of fear gets over me, and I realize I feel like I'm riding just in the same spot on this trail over and over and over, and this sets me into panic mode. So now I begin to sweat bullets at this point. I stand up on my bike and I'm trucking it just to get around this bend to try and get out of this place. I'm literally freaking out, starting to shake and everything. And I see the bend slowly coming up more and more and more and more. My heart's pounding out of my chest. I can't even think straight, and I'm sweating bullets. My hands are all tight, and I'm just pounding through just to get out of here. And I finally almost reach this bed. I'm like, oh my God, thank God I'm almost there. And then the second I turn this bend, I get the look of just miles and miles and miles of trails that just twisted and winded all the way down, and it just never ended as it looked to me. And this is where the true panic set in. I started booking it, and I was sweating literal bullets at this point. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding in my throat, my chest, my mouth was dry, my thoughts were racing, I didn't know what to do. Everything you can think of is just straight panic mode, like I'm just trying to get the heck out of here. And suddenly it dawns on me, the berries that I picked, is that why this is happening? Could this be why that's happening? Should I just get rid of them to get out of here? Will that solve it? Did I get truly lost, as they always say in these cases? But I'm like, no, that can't be. I wasn't this far. There's no way. How did I get down this far? None of this makes any sense. So I'm still literally booking it, and my heart's pounding out of my chest. I still don't even know what to do. And the thought dawns on me. I'm like, maybe if I just go this way out to that road that's like literally right there through a couple yards of forest, and I can get to the street and just get out of here to at least to see other people. And the thought pops in, maybe this is exactly what the force or whatever it is wants me to do. They want me to go in the forest so I get lost completely and I can never return. So I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. Not happening. I'm just going to keep pushing and pushing as hard as I can to get the heck out of here. So as I'm doing this, my heart's pounding out of my chest. I feel like I'm getting nowhere. I still feel like I'm riding in place. I'm getting nowhere. The trail just keeps going and going and going all the way down straight, and it never ends. And finally, the final thought that dawned on me, it's the berries. It's got to be the berries. I got to get rid of the berries. So I whip the backpack off to the side like this, struggling to get it open while I'm still hauling. I'm struggling to get the berries out of the bag. I just open the lid and I dump them all out on the side of the trail as I'm riding, and then I stuff it back in there and just keep it over my shoulder, and I'm still pushing along as hard as I can. And I'm literally flying down this trail at no avail just to get the heck out of here. And this is the point where I noticed it seemed like I started making progress, which kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, did it work? So I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and it does seem like I'm kind of moving more faster towards another bend way down at the very edge of this trail. I'm like, oh my God, maybe if I just get there, my car will be there and I'll be safe and I can get the heck out of here and go home. So I floor it even more. I gun it even more. Heart's pounding out of my chest. It's in my throat. I can't breathe anymore. I'm just totally exhausted and I just want to go home. And suddenly, I took a glance to my right, and I swear I seen some sort of shadow lurking in the trees. And this is what spooked me to my absolute core. At this point, I just looked straight. I gunned it as fast as I can to this bend, as quickly as I could. And I'm finally coming up on this bend, and I kind of feel a sense of dread that this never-ending trail might happen again around this bend. But I finally get around this bend and I see this little bridge, and that's where I initially crossed to get to where I was initially, and my car was right after that. And I got over the bridge and I see my car, and I couldn't even believe all of it happened. I was so spooked. I was so scared out of my mind. I was visibly shaking at this point. My hands were shaking. My entire body was shaking with fear of what just happened to me. I was shaking so bad to the point where someone across behind me that was parked, they actually noticed how bad I was shaking, and they actually asked me if I was okay. What happened? Do you need help? I was like, no, I don't know what happened. I just want to go home. And then they said, all right, if you need help, just let me know. I got water. I have food if you need anything. And I was like, no, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So I threw my bike in the bed of the truck, and I gunned it into my cab, and I fired up the truck, and I peeled out of there as quickly as I could and got to the road and went home. So what happened to me that day? I still have no clue. There's multiple cases of people picking berries within forests, and they suddenly vanish under bizarre circumstances, and a lot of them are never seen again. And that thought crossed my mind after I picked them up and I had them in my bag, and I was like, forget it, they're not worth it. I'll just return it to the forest if that's what they really want. And if it worked, which, don't ask me, I don't know if it did, but maybe it did, and it got me out of there. But I absolutely refuse to go down that trail, at least without maybe someone with me. I'll go back, but solo, I am not going back. That is not my cup of tea. That is one of the most terrifying things I have ever witnessed. People are picking berries, and they just completely vanish and are never seen again. And a lot of these cases often describe of people being dropped into possibly different dimensions, and they're just lost in the forest for all eternity, as so it seems to what I've read. I would highly recommend checking these cases out and reading them for yourself, listening to the reports yourself. They're out of this world. They're something of a totally different nature, and they're very fascinating, and a lot of them are very downright scary. And it's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, to be lost in a forest for all eternity with no contact to any humans or help or even food for that matter. So I believe that will conclude today's story. If you actually like this story and would like to hear more stories like this, I have tons to share. They're never ending of how many stories I actually have. So if you actually do enjoy these types of stories, hit that like button, and it will show me that you actually want to hear more of them, and I will make more of them. I have no problem doing it. I love doing it. And most of all, please help me reach 1,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. And I thank you guys for everything. And until next time, that'll do it for today. I'll see you in the next video.